Let's talk about the deliberate destruction of German and European car industry and the wider industrial base in Europe. There's hardly any corner of the world where you mention BMW, Mercedes or Audi and people don't immediately recognize the name. These brands became global symbols of performance, luxury, and engineering excellence. Germany earned that reputation through real technological mastery, precision manufacturing, and a complete industrial ecosystem. They were the envy of the world. Today, that legacy is being systematically dismantled. Why? Because of some of the most incompetent and destructive policies ever forced on a developed economy. And the people responsible are sitting in Brussels and Berlin. For decades, it worked. Germany mastered the machinery. They built world-class supply chains and engineering culture. They knew exactly what they were doing. Then they became addicted to the Chinese market, a big market. It turned into their biggest profit machine, not surprising. Sales were exploding. Chinese buyers wanted the prestige of German luxury cars. Who didn't? But China was never going to just stay a customer. In the last 10 years, they scaled at speed Europe couldn't match. Companies like BYD went from batteries to complete high-performance EVs with excellent software and technology that young buyers actually wanted. Chinese customers started choosing their own brands. German sales in China collapsed. That was the first warning sign. And the German government and EU did almost nothing meaningful about it. Then the Chinese came straight into Europe. With lower costs, lighter regulations, and ruthless efficiency, they could sell solid, modern EVs for dramatically less money than German cars. And yeah, you heard that right, less regulation. Can you believe it? Less regulation for them, not for European companies. Europeans looked at the prices and got really angry. They looked at the prices of these Chinese EVs, which were amazing, which were state-of-the-art with top technology and everything. And they looked at the prices and they were like, wait a minute, what the hell is going on? And they realized that actually they felt that Germans had been ripping them off for all these years. The German manufacturers now were trapped. They had built their entire empire around combustion engines. That was still profitable. The EU forced them into a brutal, expensive transition with aggressive mandates, punitive taxes on normal cars, and heavy subsidies for EVs, whether the technology and infrastructure were ready or not, whether anybody wanted these cars or not. The Chinese, they were born in the EV world. They didn't have to destroy their own profitable business to change. But the real crime against German industry was the energy policy and the climate agenda pushed by the EU and blindly followed by German government. When the Russia-Ukraine war started, instead of securing cheap and reliable energy, Europe chose sanctions. They chose virtue signaling. Germany, whose economy runs on industry, got hammered hardest. Not surprising. Electricity prices exploded and remain 2 to 3 times higher than before 2022. The German government then made one of the most idiotic decisions in modern history. They shut down every nuclear power plant. Actually, they had been doing this for a while. Japan had Fukushima, as you know, and they still kept their nuclear power. They still kept these nuclear power plants running. Germany had 0 nuclear disaster on its soil and still turned off its cleanest, most reliable base load power. Now they push solar in one of Europe's cloudiest countries and cover the landscape with wind turbines that kill birds and ruin views. It looks ugly. If you drive through Germany, you will realize how ugly it is. It is really ruining the beautiful landscape of this country. This is the famous Energiewende. Higher prices, less reliable energy, and industrial decline. And wrapping all of it is the climate cult. The entire EU produces only about, pay attention, the entire EU produces only about 6% of global CO2 emissions. 6%. They convince their populations that if Europe destroys its own industry to become carbon neutral, it will save the planet. Can you believe it? What complete and utter bullshit. Even if every word of the CO2 narrative is true, which many serious scientists still debate, when you stop producing things here and still need cars, steel, chemicals, and goods, someone else will make them. Someone else will make them for you. Who would it be? Probably China or India, often with much dirtier energy. Global emissions don't fall. They just move to another country and they probably increase and likely increase. Europe loses its factories and high-paying jobs. That's the brilliant plan coming out of Brussels. This isn't just abstract economics. These policies are killing people. By making electricity so expensive, millions of Europeans, especially the elderly and poor, cannot afford to run air conditioning. Probably you have seen that recently. Even when they can buy the unit, although with all the taxes you have in Europe, it's not even easy to buy one, believe it or not. For years, they have been shamed. People have been shamed. Yeah. For years, people in Europe have been shamed into believing that wanting basic comfort in summer is somehow immoral because of the climate agenda. During heat waves, people are dying. You have seen that all over the news, right? Who hasn't heard of these excess deaths, thousands of deaths that have happened? People are dying because they can't cool their homes. This is energy poverty created on purpose by policy. The EU and German government made energy unaffordable, then told people they should suffer in silence. It is shameful. They have also deliberately crushed domestic demand for cars with insane taxation. What else? In most of US states, maybe California is an exception, registering almost any normal car costs you maybe about $50 to $70 a year. Yes, including taxes, registration fee, everything. $50 to $70 a year. Same low fee, whether it is a small sedan or something bigger. Here in Europe, you want to take a guess? Believe me, you won't even be close. It's completely ridiculous what's happening here. For my own car, nothing special, not a gas guzzler, I am paying more than 1,500 euros every single year just in registration and related taxes. This is not my car insurance. This is just registration and taxes. 1,500 euros every year just to keep the car on the road. And petrol or diesel, it's almost twice as expensive as in the United States. Why? Because of taxes. What else? When you make car ownership punishingly expensive for your own citizens through registration taxes, fuel taxes, and every other possible charge, while simultaneously making it harder and more expensive for your own companies to do business, what do you think happens? You destroy your own domestic market. Then you open the floodgates to Chinese imports. Yeah, good luck competing with Chinese ability to scale like hell. You really think you can compete with China? No, you cannot. Let's face it. And here's the final betrayal. As European factories close to sit half empty, Chinese companies are moving in to buy them. Chinese automakers and officials have shown clear interest in acquiring unwanted German plants, including some from Volkswagen. There is a brand called Chery from China, has already bought a former Nissan factory in Barcelona. Geely is taking space, another company in China or from China, is taking space in Ford's Valencia plant, which is in Spain. Other Chinese brands are partnering on Stellantis factories in Spain. They are literally buying factories Europe is abandoning so they can produce locally, avoid tariffs, and sell even more cars into the European market. The very plants we no longer use are being handed over to our competitors. So, Germany and Europe once had something the rest of the world envied: real industrial strength that was built on engineering excellence and realistic policy. The EU and the German government are throwing it away for ideology, for symbolic climate targets that changed almost nothing globally, while certainly destroying jobs, raising costs for ordinary people, and making life harder for everyone here. Volkswagen is reportedly looking at up to 100,000 job cuts and multiple plant closures. Let that sink. This is just the beginning if these suicidal policies continue. They have suppressed their own market with crazy taxes, made energy unaffordable, forced an unrealistic transition on their own companies, and then opened the door wide to Chinese competitors, who are now even buying the factories we are shutting down. This is economic self-harm dressed up as moral superiority. And the worst part is how many people have been convinced to accept this bullshit. They have been convinced to accept the destruction of their own livelihoods and industrial base. All for policies that deliver zero meaningful benefit to the actual climate. Europe is deindustrializing. It is deindustrializing itself in real time. And the people in Brussels and Berlin are proudly leading the way. How much more damage will they do before reality forces a change? Or have they already gone too far? What do you think?